Hello, Dog Nation, and welcome back to Dog Nation at Large. I'm Kaylee Mansell with Dog Nation insider Connor Riley. And since we've been in our new studio over the last couple months, we say that we're in the fishbowl because they love to bring people here, show them the studio, and show them all the action that's going on. And it was last Thursday that we had a surprise visitor that was not coming to see our studio, but the one down the hall. But I did get a chance to meet said guest, and it was none other than my icon, legend. She is the standard. It's Maria Taylor, a former dog. We're going to hopefully have her on one of our future Dog Nation at Larges. But the funny thing about this is y'all can't realize this because I'm sitting in a chair, but I'm 5'9", and I'm wearing heels, and she still makes me look small. I mean, she's got a whole head on me, and that's crazy. But what I'm getting at here is, Connor, is there a former Georgia Bulldog that you haven't had the chance to meet, but you would like to?
Not really, no. I mean, Maria Taylor, a great Centennial High School alum. I know you're trying to replace one Centennial alum with another. I can respect that, but so long as I'm here, I don't know if this Dog Nation at Large is big enough for two Centennial High School alums. So just keep that in mind.
I have to say that I'm pretty disappointed in your answer. I thought that you would have a good one to give because I know that you've been around a long time, but there has to be somebody that you would want to meet, right?
I mean, look, when you're standing shoulder to shoulder with Harry Styles at the Masters, you don't get blown away with celebrities and things like that. So, I'm not usually one to be shocked in awe of people like that. They're people too. Maria Taylor puts her pants on just like everybody else.
Well, she was wearing a skirt yesterday, so she put
I
her
didn't want to
skirt
get
on.
into women's fashion there. We're still just removed from the whole Greg Doyle, Caitlin Clark thing. So I'm treading carefully there.
Connor's playing it safe. Heart no longer means offensive. All right, this is our new show, Dog Nation at Large. It's not brand new anymore, but here it is.
It's the show for the new breed of Georgia Bulldog fan. This is Dog Nation at Large with Dog Nation insiders Connor Riley and Kaylee Mansell.
So this is Dog Nation at Large, a show where we hope you don't know what we're going to talk about because we're trying to go all over the place. But it is finally draft week. Even though I am on a boat right now, I'm still really excited for our draft party that we're going to be having tonight on our Royal Caribbean Dog Nation cruise. But we're also going to have, Connor's got something to say. I mean, God forbid, who's surprised by that? He's got something that he wants to put out there, so we're going to let him have his moment in the spotlight and say what he wants to say because he's got a hot take about this year's draft. And then we are going to talk about the relationship between the Falcons and the Georgia Bulldogs. Can that be mended this year with a new coach? And then we are going to do the best draft steals of the Kirby Smart era. And then we're going to wrap it all up with our very first ever Dog Nation employee draft. I really hope that nobody gets their feelings hurt, Connor.
Knowing our staff and knowing us and knowing you, I'm sure somebody will.
Oh, knowing me? What is that supposed to mean?
I just want to include everybody here. And then I'll kind of prove my point.
Everybody knows that I like to keep it light and keep it fun, and it's small jabs, but they don't hurt anybody. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this year's draft class. We're going to do steals of the draft this year. I don't think guys like Brock Bowers or Amarius Mims count because it's almost guaranteed that they're going to go in the first round. So we're going to talk about the guys that maybe you get in the third or the fourth round and they end up being like starters within year two. And Connor, who in your mind is the number one steal of this entire Dawgs draft class?
Yeah, I think a guy who, may not be all that highly drafted, but a guy who, like in the Super Bowl, like we saw with Chris Conley or Charlie Warner, go on to play a really big role for a team moving forward. I think it's Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I think he's got an NFL skill set. I think he's going to be a guy that makes an NFL roster. He is a star on special teams. May not be that take the top off type defensive or offensive player rather, but can make a lot of nice plays on the outside, strong hands, impressed at the Senior Bowl. Obviously didn't run the fastest time in the 40-yard dash, but I think he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox, and that's going to help a team. And if he's able to find the right fit and land with the right team, I think he's a winning player that can help a top-tier franchise. He's not going to revolutionize your passing game. I don't expect him to be a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but I think Marcus is a guy that can help a team, and because of that, he's going to be able to stick around in the NFL for a while.
When I was at the Senior Bowl in February, one thing that I noticed about him is like his length, his wingspan is really long, and so he's able to make those like big over the head catches, and I think that he was able to display that at the Senior Bowl, and I did think it turned some eyes on him. Where do you think that he could potentially go in this draft?
Yeah, I think 6th, 7th round is ultimately where he's going to be. I think athletic testing didn't help him all that much, but I think when you look at him, the fact that he's going to be a Willie and special teams player. Last year, you see Amir Speed, who former Georgia cornerback, then at Michigan State, get drafted because of his special teams abilities. That makes him draftable there. And I think because of the way that Georgia played offensively, where they want to spread the ball around and get it to as many guys as possible, I think there's another world where Marcus is a more productive receiver. You saw him have some impressive games in his time at UGA. This guy is a willing blocker, and he's going to be able to help out in that regard and continue to grow as a pass catcher there. So he's going to be a late day 3 pick, but I think he's absolutely someone that is going to be able to come in and help out right away.
So if you look at the defensive side of the ball, you have so many options for steals in Javon Bullard, Tyke Smith, even Kamari Lassiter, all have their negative things, but I feel like the positive outweighs the negative. And I also feel like coming from a program like the University of Georgia, you know exactly the kind of player that you're getting in terms of coachability and the standard at which they hold themselves. When you look at the defensive guys in this class, who is the steal?
Yeah, it's tough to call Javon Bullard a steal because he could very well be the first safety off the board. So I think I kind of have to remove him there in that regard. I'll go Tyke Smith here. This is a guy that has actually greatly helped his draft stock throughout this process. Aced the Senior Bowl, tested really well at the NFL Combine. This is a guy that has played a lot of different roles in his time at Georgia. And I actually think at the next level might be able to do more than he was allowed to at the University of Georgia. Played mostly star this past season with Javon Bullard playing safety. I know there were some NFL teams that are interested in seeing him move around and possibly play that deep safety spot in the field. So I think the fact that he's already shown he can do certain things very well, it can only help his draft stock moving forward. Again, he's not going to be for everybody. He might start off as a nickel type player, which is the role that he filled at Georgia. But I think he's someone who can expand upon his game when he gets to the next level. And while size, speed concerns might exist, along with the fact that he did have an ACL injury in college, I think that's ultimately maybe going to, hurt him a little bit on draft day, but might help him in the long term in terms of finding a spot on a roster and helping him become a winning player.
When I was looking at different media platforms' draft analysis, it seems like the biggest concern around Tyke Smith is his height and length because he's not exactly the biggest safety, but everything else they talked about, how he's a strong tackler, how he has those linebacker abilities. It's a shame that the biggest negatives that most people can come up with is something that is outside of his control. But I do think that he will not only provide some insight on the defense, but could also be a really good special teams player in the NFL as well.
Yeah, this is a guy who had to work hard in his time at Georgia. Came in from West Virginia. There were a lot of expectations for him. Suffers multiple injuries in his first year and really has to work his way back into the rotation after that. And in doing so, made himself clearly a better player. Led Georgia in tackles, interceptions, and tackles for loss this season. And so I think with Tyke, look, he's been through adversity. You know that he's already changed teams, so he understands, I think, the business-like aspect that the NFL is, and he knows that he's going to have to hit the ground running and work hard, and I think some team is going to find that very attractive on draft day.
Connor, do you know what the experts are saying about Ladd McConkey?
No.
The experts being my 9-year-old sister who had the chance to meet Ladd McConkey a few weeks ago, told Ladd McConkey that he should get drafted to the Chiefs so that he could meet Travis Kelce and then introduce him to Taylor Swift. So when that happens, Ladd can call my 9-year-old sister and get her to a Chiefs game where she could not only meet Travis Kelce, but Taylor Swift also. And so therefore, that is what the experts are saying Ladd McConkey should do.
That feels like a lot of strings to be pulled. Like I think your sister can get to a Chiefs game without the help of Ladd McConkey there, but you have to appreciate the effort.
Hey, I mean, shooters are going to shoot. She had one opportunity, like 2 minutes with Ladd, and she took it. And honestly, I could not be more proud of her for the fact that she even knows who the Kansas City Chiefs are.
So are you prepared to sort of sit down and talk with her when Ladd doesn't get drafted and be like, hey, like this isn't the end of the world?
She has a father. I think I'm all right. He's the one that got her into all this anyway. So I think that my dad's going to be able to handle that one. And who knows, maybe one day he'll get traded and it'll all work out how the experts said it was supposed to work out. All right, moving on from Ladd, give me one more steal.
Kendall Milton is an interesting name here. Might not be drafted. I think injuries are a big reason why there, but he finished his career at Georgia about as well as you can ask a running back to do for, I think, 9 straight games with a touchdown to end his senior season there. MVP of the Orange Bowl. Again, didn't test out of the gym out there in Indianapolis, but can fill a very specific role, played special teams at Georgia. Great off the field leader, is going to have no issues off the field there. And so I think he's a guy, again, if he can find the right fit, which is so important, especially with these late round guys, they're going to potentially give him an opportunity. I think that's a win for Kendall there. You look at Isaiah Pacheco, the leading rusher for the Chiefs. He was a 7th round draft pick. I think running backs have shown that fit is far more important than draft selection. And so if Kendall's able to find a good home, whether it be late in the draft or even possibly as an undrafted free agent, I think he's a guy that could very well outperform what his draft stock is.
Yeah, well, running backs do have short-lived time in the NFL. Is Kendall Milton someone that you could really see becoming a starter for someone, or is he just always going to be a good backup?
I think he's got the skills to be a starter. You saw that at times at the University of Georgia. He was their lead running back. He was, in my opinion, their most impactful running back this past season. But the reality is the days of 20-25 carry running backs are gone. And so Kendall's going to be asked to fill a role in some regard. I think his lack of proven ability as a pass catcher might limit him somewhat. But that's also an area I think he can continue to get better in. And so I think Kendall is a guy who projects to be a guy that can come in and give you carries and pick up positive yards on 1st and 2nd down, while also being willing to stick his nose in there and be an effective pass blocker.
So those are our steals from this draft class, but there is one player who nobody can call a steal, and that is Brock Bowers. And from what I understand, Connor has something that he would like to say about what the experts, the real experts, are saying about where Brock could potentially get drafted. So I would like to let Connor have his tortured poet moment right here and say whatever he needs to get off of his chest, because I don't know what it is.
So there's been a lot of discussion about Brock Bowers of late, and I'm sure many of you are thinking, oh, it's in relation to his athletic testing or a lack thereof. Quite frankly, I don't care all that much about that. NFL draft analysts on Twitter are some of the biggest grifters out there. And so if you're crying over the lack of a publicly available 40 time or 3-cone and using that to ding Brock Bowers, I can't help you, and there's not much to do there. What I am worried about when it comes to Brock Bowers, in my opinion, the best player to ever play for the University of Georgia, it has to do with his draft slot and a place that he is projected. There's been a lot of talk and chatter about Brock in terms of where he might land throughout this process, and there have been some that have been raising an eyebrow in terms of drafting a tight end in the top part of the 1st round. There's been a recent bevy of statistics that show that 1st-round tight ends do not necessarily pan out all that well. I believe the last 10 1st-round picks that were tight ends, 9 of them did not get a second contract with their current team. So you wonder, where might Brock land? I think through all this, his tape is exemplary. Anyone that has talked with Brock knows how great of a player in person he is. And I think that is why he is ultimately going to go in the top half of the 1st round, potentially even in the top 10. The problem that I have right now is that the team that Brock Bowers is most commonly linked to is one of the most inept franchises, not just in professional sports, but in all of America. Brock Bowers is mocked to be a New York Jet by almost everyone that has a serious platform. ESPN, Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, the list goes on and on and on. If Brock Bowers is a New York Jet, he will have to somehow transcend even what he did at Georgia to become a great player for the Jets. Do you know, Kaylee, which team has the longest current NFL playoff drought?
I'm going to take a wild guess here and say it's the New York Jets.
It is the New York Jets. It's been over 50 years since the New York Jets have even been to a Super Bowl, much less won one. My brother is a Jets fan. I am a New England Patriots fan. I have seen the Jets up close and personal for most of my life. This franchise is an absolute mess. And if Brock Bowers goes there, I do believe that there's a real world where his career does not pan out to the fullest potential. And that upsets me, because I think anyone that got a chance to watch Brock Bowers in college saw what a truly special player he is. And now, potentially, he will be asked to transcend one of the most incompetent franchises in the NFL. This is a team whose quarterback is coming off an Achilles injury. They have 2 30-plus-year-olds at offensive tackle. It is an offense that really struggled last year. It is a coaching staff that has a lot of questions around it. The guy that is going to be potentially calling plays for the New York Jets next year, and thus Brock Bowers' offensive coordinator, is none other than former Denver Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett. I am extremely worried and concerned about Brock Bowers potentially ending up with the New York Jets. And while I think it would be great for Brock personally and the Georgia program if he were to be a top 10 pick, I will be rooting hard on draft night for the New York Jets to pass on Brock Bowers or let someone else take this incredibly talented player in person. Because if Brock Bowers does what I think he did at the University of Georgia at the NFL level, which I fully believe he can do, he's absolutely going to be one of the greats in the game. But if he lands with the New York Jets, given all that we have seen from this incompetent franchise, I'm deeply worried that the best of Brock Bowers might be behind us. And that really, really upsets me. So please, if you're watching this, I am begging you, do not let Brock Bowers become a New York Jet. I do not trust the Jets to make the most of Brock Bowers, and I believe that they could possibly ruin him. And if Brock Bowers somehow does succeed with the New York Jets and transcends that level of incompetence, we're going to have a very long discussion about how truly great Brock Bowers is. That is what he's potentially looking at. I know the Jets are mentioned as a target. If you're the Los Angeles Chargers at 5, take Brock Bowers, please. I'm begging you. If you're the Denver Broncos, you want to trade up for him, please. I'm begging you, do it. If the Jets think mercifully pass on him, I think the Colts at 15, the Cincinnati Bengals at 18 make a lot of sense for Brock. All I will be hoping for on draft night with everyone in the cruise having a great time. The Jets are on the clock. Root as hard as you can for Brock Bowers not to be a New York Jet. Thank you for your time. Remember to keep Brock Bowers off the New York Jets.
I can't even tell time, but I know that was a lot of time. So here's what I'm going to have you do. Why don't you go get a sip of water, calm yourself down while I ask, get your water. I have a question. So I heard most of what you were saying, but you say, and you are very loud and clear, and I love that you stand by it the way that you do. You say that Brock Bowers is the greatest Georgia Bulldog player of all time. You're not ashamed to admit it, and I admire that. So I don't understand, if he could do what he did at Georgia, why are you under the assumption that he can't do it with the Jets? If he is the greatest Georgia Bulldog of all time, it just takes one person. I know that Aaron Rodgers is coming back this year. Like, I was a Jets fan growing up. I don't really have any loyalties to the NFL. I've said that before. I loved the Jets color scheme. I was 8. I mean, what do you expect me to do? I don't hate them, but I also don't have any NFL. I'm not loyal to anybody in the NFL, so this doesn't really matter as much to me as clearly it does to you. But Connor, this feels a little bit personal and not business, and that's unlike you.
No, it's 100. Are you saying it's personal because I'm a Patriots fan, or personal because I want Brock Bowers to succeed? It has nothing to do with it. Like, Brock Bowers could go land with the Miami Dolphins. Now they won't take him because the Dolphins prefer just a pure blocking tight end in their scheme.
Braxton Berry.
I believe that Brock Bowers can be the best tight end in the NFL, knowing that Travis Kelce is in there, George Kittle is in there. I believe this guy is a truly unique weapon. What everyone was saying about Kyle Pitts 2 years ago, I think that's actually going to be the case with Brock Bowers in this year's draft. My worry and fear with him going to the Jets is that they're just going to take an awesome player and mess him up, because that's what the Jets do. They have done this time and time again. You could even make the argument they did that with Aaron Rodgers, an MVP with the Green Bay Packers. He goes there 4 plays in, tears his Achilles. That's not an Aaron Rodgers issue in my mind. It's a New York Jets thing. The vibes around this franchise are atrocious. And while Brock Bowers is great, Herschel Walker also did not have, I think, the NFL career that a lot of people thought that he was going to have. While he was statistically productive, he was not the same impact player that he was at the University of Georgia. And so I think we all know that sometimes these things just don't always translate from being an all-time great college player to being an all-time great NFL player. And I am very worried that the New York Jets are going to go in some way, because as only the Jets can, prevent Brock Bowers from showing how great he really is.
I'm sorry, but you can't tell me that the vibes around the Jets are atrocious when them singing Ski Yee on Hard Knocks exist.
Kaylee, when was the last time the Jets made the playoffs?
Apparently it's been a very, very long time. I don't think it matters where Brock goes. I think that Brock's going to put up numbers. But if you had to pick one team where you, other than the Patriots, no more personal stuff, where would you like to see him go?
Cincinnati. I think you pair him with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase. I believe this is going to be T. Higgins' final year there in Cincinnati. I think with that offense, with that kind of quarterback around him, I think you would see him thrive there. Indianapolis is interesting as well. I really like Shane Steichen as a coach. They're going to need Anthony Richardson to stay healthy as a player and continue to grow and improve there. But I think Indianapolis and Cincinnati would be the two places that I think he could best thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Brock Bowers play with Joe Burrow. I mean, it's fine.
Long way from Napa, California, but I think Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati is the absolute floor for him. I think Cincinnati would be doing backflips if they found their way to get their hands on Brock Bowers.
All right, well, I am excited for our next DawgNation at Large show where we can do an update on Connor's tortured poem and see how he's feeling after draft night. All right, now let's do a quick over-under for how many dogs the Falcons could draft. So we're going to give our numbers. We're going to make it super quick. And then we're going to bring in Cody Chaffins, who I was told before the show is going to give us some Falcons draft trivia, which can we not put this on the scoreboard? Because, like I said, I don't follow the NFL. I will guess to the best of my ability, but this is not going to be my strong suit. I know how to admit my weaknesses. But before we bring in Cody, Connor, the over-under is at 0.5. It's either nobody's getting drafted or somebody's getting drafted. What are your thoughts?
Give me the over here. Mm-hmm. I think in particular, Kamari Lassiter is a really interesting prospect for the Falcons. I think he's a guy, they have a needed outside corner, but I think because of Kamari's versatility, he can do a lot of different things. I don't believe Kamari is going to be a first-round pick. I think he's going to be there at the second round. I think he could even be still available when the Falcons make their selection in the third round, possibly. Mm-hmm. I think Kamari Lassiter is a player to watch, and I could very well see him ending up being an Atlanta Falcon. I also think if Ladd McConkey somehow falls to that point in the second round, I think he would make a lot of sense as well for the Falcons there. So I do think that there are a lot of players this year who fit what the Falcons are potentially looking for.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to take the over on this. I even think that they could potentially snag two. There have been some mock drafts with the Falcons taking Javon Bullard in the third and Tyke Smith in the fifth. I hope Tyke Smith's still not on the board in the fifth round because I do think, like we talked about earlier, he is a steal. But I do have full confidence that this year the Falcons are going to take at least one Georgia Bulldog. And if I was a betting woman, I'd put my money on that. I feel good about that.
Okay, I mean, recent history, and I'm sure our wonderful producer Cody will tell us, I might not be a smart bet given the way that the Falcons have drafted of late.
New coach. New hope. Cody, come on in and give us some trivia. I'm ready to be humbled.
Yeah, so we actually did hear Raheem Morris, the new coach of the Falcons, say very nice things about Kirby Smart at the NFL Combine, saying he wants to be more like him. The Falcons, they did draft a couple years ago. They picked up some late rounders, got John Fitzpatrick, of course, and of course, they picked up Justin Schaefer, who was just recently released by the Falcons. So we got a couple trivia questions for you guys. First off, Falcons have been around since 1966. Since that time, how many Georgia Bulldogs have they drafted? Any thoughts? I gave you a couple.
I'm going to Connor, do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Go first.
I have an answer. I believe the answer is 13.
I think it's more than that. I'm going to say it's right around that number. I'm going to say it's 15.
According to our stat researcher, Jay Black, it's 11 Georgia Bulldogs who've been drafted by the Falcons since 1966. And a lot of Georgia fans feel like the Falcons hate them, right? They never pick. Well, that number's actually not that crazy from like schools like Ohio State or Southern Cal. The max, I think, is only like 14 or 15 for some of those schools. So it's not totally off. Here's another question. Of Georgia Bulldogs who the Atlanta Falcons have drafted, how many touchdowns have those players scored? Not just for the Falcons, but in the NFL.
Wait.
Oh, in the NFL.
Wait. Can we repeat the question?
So, of the 11 Georgia Bulldogs who the Atlanta Falcons have drafted over the years, how many touchdowns have those guys scored in the NFL?
Not just for the Falcons, the NFL.
Correct. Don't think too hard.
I want to say it's 5. I think it's 5. I think it's on the low end.
It's not. It's not 0.
Price is right. No, the answer is this: 0.
Yes!
Zero.
Did I
Goose
say
egg.
that?
Troy Sadowski, who we've
I held it.
talked about, Chamblee High School, never scored a touchdown. They got some defensive guys who have probably had the best careers. Akeem Dent, the linebacker, was drafted by the Falcons, ended up playing actually longer, I think, with the Texans. Got guys like Scott Warner, but he played on defense, never had a pick six or a kick return like he did at Georgia in the NFL. So 0 touchdowns. Guys like Thomas Brown never got onto the field and scored those touchdowns. So that could still change with John Fitzpatrick there. Hopefully that will this year. And we'll see, if they pick up Ladd McConkey, that number could go way, way up real fast.
Yep.
But how about that for a little Atlanta Falcons, Georgia Bulldogs trivia?
Love that.
I mean,
Love that.
when you start at the very bottom, there's only one way to go. So, yeah, I don't really know what to say about my performance there. I have never been invited to, or I have never gone to a Falcons game. And after my performance in that trivia, I don't think I'll ever be invited to one. So I'm just going to have to accept that fact. But hey, maybe I'll get to go to a New York Jets game this year.
Why would you want to watch that? They're just not fun.
Because I have the cutest Jets t-shirt ever. I thrifted it. I love it. And I would just like to put it to good use. All right. So we just did a round of what?
The Jets shirt, is it a garbage bag?
That was, you could have done better than that. I mean, that was pretty weak as far in terms of Connor's jokes go. Here's one thing we're not going to joke about, though. That wraps up our draft coverage for tonight. But even though we're on a boat, we're still going to do some draft coverage tomorrow morning, and it's going to be done by none other than Connor Riley and our referee, Cody Chaffins, at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. They're going to go over the first round picks. Is Connor going to be excited about where Brock Bowers lands, or is Connor going to be disappointed? Either way, doesn't affect me. But you're going to want to watch their show tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Plus, it features Cody Chaffins. I know you guys want to see more of him, so that is one way that you can do it. And now we're going to reflect back on some draft picks from the past, and this is going to be the best steals of the Kirby Smart era. So not this year, but since Kirby Smart's been at Georgia, who have been the picks that have really made their way to the top despite maybe being drafted towards the bottom. And I'm actually going to go first here. And my first steal of the Kirby Smart era is going to be Jamari Salyer. Jamari was drafted in the 6th round. I want to say he was pick 195. Sixth round, pick 195, drafted by the Chargers. And since then, he's had 31 career starts, and he just got an additional pay of over $840,000 because of his time in L.A. And what's so crazy is some of you may have heard me talk about it on Before the Hedges a few weeks ago when Jamari Salyer was a rookie. I did a rookie training camp with the Los Angeles Chargers, and it was with a bunch of other reporters, and we were paired with one rookie, and just by all coincidence, I got paired with Jamari Salyer, and at this point, he's in summer camp, and he doesn't even know if he's going to make the team. So to see him go from being worried that he's not going to make it out of summer camp to now being a full-time starter who just got a major pay grade, I don't know if steals get any better as far as Jamari Salyer goes.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out, I know we were just talking Falcons here. The Falcons took Justin Schaefer just ahead of Jamari Salyer, and Justin had a very good college career at the University of Georgia, won a national championship. There were a lot of people at the time puzzled why Justin Schaefer went ahead of Jamari Salyer. And I think seeing Jamari have the success that he has had at the NFL level, I think only further validates why Georgia fans were so puzzled that this guy who was an All-American in his time at the University of Georgia slid to where he did. Maybe doesn't have ideal prototypical size for an offensive tackle, but this is a guy that has just come in and played really, really great football, which is exactly what he did at the University of Georgia as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the league for quite some time. And one thing that I noticed about him with the other rookies was he was kind of their spokesperson, like their ringleader and the one that they turned to. And so I think that leadership on the line goes really far as well. And I think Jamari is somebody that we're going to continue to see making starts in the NFL. So we're going to move on to Connor's first steal of the Kirby Smart era draft picks. And that is going to be Zamir White. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, not to step on you too much there, but Zamir White, this guy was a 4th-round pick. I think Georgia fans know his story very, very well, obviously overcoming ACL injuries in his first 2 seasons at the University of Georgia, led Georgia in rushing on that 2021 national championship team. And as a guy this year who really flashed at times last year for the Raiders and is now poised to be a starting running back for them this coming season. So a lot of people excited about what Zamir might bring to the field. And yes, James Cook was a second-round pick in that same draft, already a Pro Bowler at the next level. But I think Zamir White is going to show why he was an NFL caliber running back coming out of Georgia and a guy that is going to be very impactful for the Raiders this season. Universally beloved by just about everyone that rooted for him in his time at the University of Georgia. I think he's got a chance to really outperform that draft pick status with him going in the 4th round in that 2022 NFL draft.
I know that we're talking about their NFL careers, but just a stat that has always stuck with me was the fact that Zamir White averaged 14.4 yards per carry in high school. Like, monstrous numbers. I don't know why. Like, I can't tell you what I had for dinner last night, but I can tell you that Zamir White averaged 14.4 yards per carry in high school. So I really do wish the best of luck in his NFL career.
Yeah, and it's important to point out, too, injuries took so much of his time at the University of Georgia. But since those ACL injuries, he hasn't missed a game at either the NFL or the college level. He was incredibly durable, and his physicality, I think, really helped Georgia win some big games, especially that Clemson game, the first game of the 2021 season there, was huge in the national championship win over Alabama. I think this is a guy that is just going to continue to get better and better as he gets further and further away from those knee injuries.
So the next steal of the Kirby Smart era, Connor's going to laugh at me. I know he's going to, but I don't care. I stand by my pick here. I have Jake Camarda, 4th round draft, pick 133, and I know you're like, he's a punter. This is not a steal. This is probably higher than he should have gotten drafted. Okay, look, this is somebody who's probably going to be in the league for a long time. He's also top 10 in the league for average punt, long punt, and total punts. He was also the SEC 2020 Co-Special Teams Player of the Year. This is a guy that's going to withstand the test of time and a name that will be heard around Athens for a long time, and I stand by my pick here.
You're not wrong. I saw this name come up, and I thought it was definitely something to consider. I just don't know how you can be a steal when you're the second player taken at your position, which was the case for Jake Camarda in that 2022 NFL draft. Again, great player. I agree with his inclusion on this list. If you want to say yes, in terms of draft slot, in terms of where he went overall at pick number 133, I understand that. But this was the second punter taken, and I just don't know if I can give him the steal moniker there.
Is that why you said you're not wrong instead of you are right?
That is why I said that.
Yeah, I was wondering. I said, you're not wrong. That feels a little like a backhanded compliment right there. So anyway, I wanted to switch it up and do something different. So we'll get to Connor's last pick, who I think I would have taken if Connor did it. And that's Charlie Warner, who is now, he wasn't drafted by the Falcons, but he is now with the Falcons. He was the 6th round pick, 190, drafted by the 49ers, but he recently had a homecoming. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, this guy just got a bag from the hometown Atlanta Falcons. I think $18 million was his contract there.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes and covering the draft for Georgia, I did not have a pre-write ready to go for when Charlie Warner was taken. I did not expect him to be drafted, so I was scrambling there a little bit. You heard the way I talked about Marcus Rosemary-Jacksaint and Kendall Milton earlier and talk about the importance of fit. He goes to the 49ers where he has a very clear and defined role as the second tight end, as a blocker, as a guy that can help George Kittle with some things. And that's exactly what he did. He's an excellent special teams player that was on display in the Super Bowl. And I think he brings a lot of winning traits to now the Atlanta Falcons as they try and turn things around and get back to the playoffs for the first time, I believe, since 2018. So I think Charlie Warner is a guy, look, he's not going to lead the league in tight ends. He's not even Atlanta's leading tight end receiver next year. I think that's still going to be Kyle Pitts. But he fills a very specific role, and his skill set helps teams win. And that's why the Atlanta Falcons gave him a nice chunk of change in free agency and why I think he's going to help this team this year.
Could he be the first dog/Falcon with a touchdown?
I mean, there are dogs. I mean, I believe Lorenzo Carter has a touchdown in his time with the Falcons. So while he wasn't drafted by them, that's something to monitor there.
All right. Well, we have more.
Todd Gurley definitely had touchdowns when he was with the Falcons. So, another example there.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Now, we do have more draft analysis that Connor and Mike did this week, and you can check it out on our YouTube page or DawgNation.com if you want to learn more about what's coming up in the draft analysis on all the players, who are the steals, what can you expect. And now we're going to do our very first ever DawgNation employee draft.
With the first pick,
what I love most about this draft is that the categories were actually submitted by fellow DawgNation employees. Some people sent a lot, so we just pulled the best ones. We're going to do it similar to how we did our G-Day player draft, where we're going to have Cody flip a coin. That'll decide who goes first. We'll do it in, I guess, snake order or whatever you want to call it. You cannot draft yourself, and once a player has been drafted for that particular question, the other person has to draft someone else. So let's welcome in our fabulous referee, Cody Chaffins, who I'm hoping is wearing something exciting.
yes, I had a wardrobe change because I'm acting as commissioner, and as commissioner, I expect the booze to come in. Come on, give it to me, folks. Yeah, boo-boo, I hear you, I hear you.
can't do
All
that
right,
to you.
we do have to flip the coin to decide who goes first, but before that, can I just lay down, Kaylee, as this airs, you are going to be on a boat with your coworkers.
It's a ship.
On a ship with your coworkers. And I will tell you, this is going to be airing. They could be watching if they bought the Wi-Fi package on the Royal Caribbean Allure of the Seas ship. So you may just want to consider that as you make some of your choices here. All right, heads or tails? If it's heads, it's Kaylee. If tails, it's Connor. The flip is, it is heads. So
go.
Kaylee, you will get to go first in our DawgNation draft. Let's see if you can pull you up there. All right, so go ahead, and again, guys, just be careful out there.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our first category. It is going to be, who would you call to bail you out of jail? I actually know exactly. I'm going to go process of elimination by who I would not and why, and that's going to lead me to the answer. I have a very special relationship with Mike Griffith. We have a very high level of respect for one another, and therefore I could not call Mike if I went to jail because I wouldn't want him to lose that respect I know that he has for me, and I just couldn't let him see me in that way. Jeff could be a good candidate, but I think Jeff would just ask too many questions when I probably don't want to talk about how I got there, and he would just want to know every single detail. So maybe not Jeff. Connor could also be a good option, but I just don't know if I could spend that long in the car with Connor once he came to pick me up. So with that said, I think the one person that I would let bail me out of jail would be Brandon Adams, because I think that Brandon would show up with a long drink in hand, come on, let's get you home safely.
So you're going to have Brandon committing a DUI while he is bailing you out of
He's
jail?
not drinking one while he's driving. He's bringing me one to take the edge off.
That's tough. Look, I think when it comes to this, the biggest thing, who's going to answer their phone? And so
that's so true.
And since I can't pick myself here, I'm going to pick our commissioner, Cody. I think this guy is incredible. He's on the ball. He would answer and come help me out in that moment of need. So I'm taking Cody here.
Yeah, all right.
I got you.
There you go.
Cody just changed your ringtone to something fancy, so that way he knows it's you. All right, we're going to go with our next category here, and I actually think that this one was submitted by Jeff Sentell, I want to say. Yes, best staffer to filibuster a bill in Congress. Connor.
This is 100% Mike Griffith. I think if anyone that watches On the Beat, which airs on Monday nights, when Mike gets going, there's just no stopping him. You can't, you want to try and call a 20-second timeout, you can't. And so if we need someone to stall at Congress and kill a bill potentially, I'm letting Mike Griffith talk the night away.
Yeah, you know what? It's like the Carson Beck pick from last week. That to me is just the obvious answer. That's exactly what I would have done. But since I can't, I think if you give Jeff Sentell 2 cocktails, he could filibuster his way through Congress. He just needs a little extra. He can already talk. That man could sit here and talk to this wall, and you would never know that there was not another person on the end of that conversation. I think with maybe what are we going to be having on the boat next week? 2 pina coladas. I think Jeff could go in there and not only get the bill through, but also win the hearts over of Congress. He's just a likable guy.
Are one of these questions most likely to enjoy a cocktail with? Because I feel like you're just enjoying cocktails with all the DawgNation coworkers.
Well, I mean, I'm getting ready to be in ship mode, as that's what it's called. So But I actually did not get the drink package, so maybe not. Yeah, making a big girl decision. All right, we're gonna. All right, okay. Oh, I get to pick this one, don't I? Okay, who would I trust most to babysit my kid? This is actually also going to be Mike. Mike is a father and a grandfather, and I just know that he would have a really great time and probably, if I had a kid, teach them necessary and important like life skills and give them good advice and genuinely care for them. So I would take Mike to trust with babysitting my child.
I'm taking BA. Here's why. I'm going to keep it short and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to worry about what BA happened. I'm not going to be worrying about what happens when I'm not there. I know the kid's going to be alive when I get home. They're going to have some great stories. They're going to want BA to come back again. It's all I need from someone to babysit my potential child.
I think when Jeff submitted this question to me, he thought that I was going to be the obvious answer. Let me just go ahead and set the record straight. I am terrible with kids. Do not I can't communicate on their level. I just can't. I want to be so good with kids, but I am not. So don't ever ask me to do that. Cody, except for yours. I would maybe babysit your kids if you asked me, but that you're the exception. All right. We're going to, I love this one. And I love that you have to go first because it puts you in the hot seat. And that is, which DawgNation staffer would rival fans go after first in a dunking booth?
I mean, it has to be Florida fans going after BA. That feels like the easiest layup there that there is. He's a chief Gator hater. He makes it known. And while he's, I think, playful and also accurate when he comes to making fun of the Gators, I think he enjoys it so much that they'd at least want to get a little bit of revenge on him in that regard. Well,
once New York Jets fans get a hold of this show, I think they're going after Connor Riley first. So give me Connor. I know that's not rival, but it's your rival. So boom,
hey, look,
reverse.
If Jets fans are as accurate as their quarterback play has been in recent years, I got a feeling I'm going to be pretty dry.
All right, last one. Is it my turn or your turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Who would win a DawgNation talent show? Oh, this one's tough. I feel like there's probably some DawgNation members with a secret talent, but I feel like like I said, I have a certain level of respect for Mike Griffith. I know that he spent some time in the military. You can't tell me that there wasn't some super awesome talent he acquired while he was there that he's just been sitting on this whole time. So I think that in a dark horse pick, Mike Griffith would find a way to pull out a win with our DawgNation talent show.
I can't believe you just gave me this draft. I mean, the answer, he pops on our show with us. Man, has costume changes, a flair for the dramatics. This guy keeps people engaged. I'm going with Cody Chaffins here to win a talent show. I don't know what that talent is, but I know he's going to keep people engaged and enthralled.
I don't know if I need to remind you. We're not giving a winner or a loser. I appreciate all the pandering that has been happening on my behalf, Connor, but there's not a winner or a loser here, mainly because I don't want to have to upset. I'm still new here. I don't want to upset anybody, but I do. That was very nice. And, yeah, I wear shirts like this. I can't juggle or anything. I don't know what my talent would be, but I could figure something out.
He could definitely do some stand-up comedy. Like, I feel like that's really hard to do, but if there's one person that could definitely do it, it would be Cody.
Yeah, I feel great about my pick. Thrilled that I got him with the second pick. He was the number one player on my board for this question, so I'm thrilled with the outcome here.
All right, and we're going to wrap up with a week ago now. Taylor Swift's double album, not one, but two, has been released. We would like to give you guys an update on our favorite song this far. Now, there's 30 of them to choose from, so there is a broad range of options. And Connor, I would like for you to share yours.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that some people here went to sleep before the second album came out, the second batch of songs. So I don't know if Kaylee has had a chance to listen to both albums or she is just working off the one that she had a chance to stay up and listen to. She was up way past her bedtime, and some people just aren't as dedicated there. I think my number one right now, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. I think it's an incredible song. It is both a bop, but also a deeply sad song. I think LOML is a great song as well. And then The Smallest Man in the World. And the fact that you get those three songs back to back to back on the run of the first album there, I think is just incredible. Overall, I think the second album is a little bit stronger, or at least more consistent than the first, but she's done it again. She's created another great album, and I'm super excited to spend more and more time with this album moving forward.
Clearly, Connor has never had a day of beauty sleep in his life, because
look at
I
me.
gotta have a full
look at
8
that
hours to
crystal
look like
eyes.
this. Are you kidding me? No, I did not know that this second album drop was coming, but it was a nice surprise. And I hate surprises, so it was really exciting when I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, I have 15 more songs to listen to. So Connor actually did mention what I thought was the best song amongst the two albums. I'm with Connor in the sense that I do think that the second half is more complete from start to finish and does that have consistency of some of her former albums. But as far as singles go, my favorite on Tortured Poets Department is going to be called LOML. Yeah.
My life.
Yes, I'm getting there. Can you let me have my moment here? I let you rant about Brock Bowers for like 5 hours. Let me have 50 seconds here. It typically stands for Love of My Life, which is what I thought it was going to be when I saw it initially on the track list. But it ends with saying that in her mind, it actually ends with Loss of My Life. And I just thought that that was really clever wordplay. And if you go listen to the song, you'll understand how she goes from I was love of his life to he is now the loss of my life. And I'm kind of in my like Taylor Swift era where I've grown up with her. And so her songs become more and more relatable as I get older. And I don't know, I feel like this is the most personal connection I've had to an album in a long time. And it's not just like, bops or pop songs. I really felt this one in my soul, and I'm excited to go back and listen to it again, because you should listen to an album from start to finish, because usually it has a story to tell, not just Taylor Swift albums, but albums in general. You should listen to them from start to finish, because the song order is very important and it typically tells a story. So if that's not how you listen to new albums that come out, then that's would be my Kaylee's advice to you, is to listen to it in the way that it was meant to be listened to.
Okay, interesting.
Do you not feel that way? I thought we were just like, I just assumed that we would be on the same page about that.
No, I think you should be allowed to pick and choose. I don't think every song on this album is great and worth listening to. And so if you want to hop around, I think that's fine. I think from a first listening standpoint, yeah, it's encouraged that you go front to back. But once you get through there, I think it's important to sort of lock on to what songs you like and keep coming back to. And then from there, you can explore the album in greater depths. You don't need to be constrained to the chronological order of this album.
All right. We're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
You didn't listen to the tracks at 2 a.m. last night. You didn't listen to me right there. You see how it is.
Okay, Connor, whatever. All right. That's enough Taylor Swift talk. For those of you that have stayed with us this far and listened to us talk about Taylor Swift, we know who you are. We recognize it. We know that you're the real ones that have been there with us all along. Well, this has been another episode of DawgNation at Large. Next week, we will be back in person. I will hopefully have made it back from the cruise, and Connor really does not have to live up to his designated survivor title and status. And so who knows what we'll talk about when the time has come. But thank you all for joining us again on another episode of DawgNation at Large. We'll see you right back here next Thursday at 7 o'clock.